Welcome to the Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. Your host, Mike Fierros, will dive deep into the world of IT and cybersecurity, bringing you the stories and insights of professionals who are making waves in the field. From how they got started, to their most exciting projects, and their advice for aspiring tech enthusiasts, we cover it all. So, whether you're an industry veteran or just getting started, join us as we explore the fascinating minds behind the technology that shapes our world. Let's get started.
Hey guys, what's up? Mike again, Cyber Tech Podcast, inside the minds of everyday IT and cyber pros. And just a little bit update, guys. I have what's called the AspireByte Hub. It's online right now. If you go to aspirebyte.card.co, that's aspirebyte.carrd.co. You'll see everything affiliated, any projects affiliated with the AspireByte platform too. Go and check it out. There is links to a merch shop if you guys so wish to support the platform and get projects funded and whatnot. I appreciate that too, guys. And thanks for the reach outs to guys and encouragement online. I really appreciate that. And this episode number 20, we finally made it to episode number 20. It took a little bit, but we finally got there. This episode, man, this is a really special one because for those of you listening that are working in the field and, grinding every day, we have to deal with users. We have to take care of the companies, organizations, whether you're in IT project management, you're in system administration, email administrator, cybersecurity side, InfoSec team. And sometimes we get caught up and we don't take time to laugh about things or because we may be, knee deep in some fires that's going on and whatnot. The gentleman I have today definitely put a smile on my face. I was scrolling on Instagram one day and it was just been a busy week and whatnot. And I saw one of his skits online. The gentleman also works in IT. His name is Kimani Van Strayhorn. He is a seasoned IT pro, IT project manager, and he's also a digital content creator. How's it going, Kimani?
It's going pretty good, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. You're welcome, man. I like I mentioned before the recording, I think this week has been a little hectic, but it's a good thing because we learn and we stay sharp and whatnot. We work as a team. Those of us are in the field and whatnot. But it's sometimes we gotta remember to laugh. And when I saw your content on Instagram, man, that put a smile to my face. It's just it was a good reminder for me, if you will, to be like, hey man, no matter how busy you are, you need to just take 5 minutes and take a laugh for a little bit. Just breathe a little bit. And your content, I saw the rest of your content. I was like, man, I need to get him on here. I need him to get on here because for those trying to get into the field, to realize, you're doing your studying and whatnot, but take a step back and kind of breathe and enjoy the journey, if you will. Enjoy the people around you. And you reminded me of that, Kimani.
I appreciate that. Being in IT and working in different departments, I realized that we're all even when you get to like kind of management positions and stuff, you're all kind of dealing with the same things, and it's good to not forget or remember like kind of where you started as you get through the levels of like, oh man, yeah, I was fixing printers for like 3 or 4 years, and the things customers said or like the things I had to deal with, like people, and just by reading the feedback and the comments of people who've like, oh, I used to be help desk and now I'm networking, or but I remember those days, but everybody's getting a good laugh. Some people are like, man, I'm in the thick of it right now. So, appreciate you kind of talking about it. Cause, we've all been there. If you've done any sort of IT for any sort of amount of time, like you've been in the thick of it, at least once or twice. And it's good to, have that moment where you can kind of say like, somebody else gets it. Somebody else out there understands what I'm going through, and people appreciate that. So I make this kind of content for them.
Kimani, for those that may not be familiar with you and the content that you do, kind of explain about yourself, how you got into IT and your journey into this content creation.
My background's actually in photography. So
Awesome.
I went to school for photography. I did that for a few, I did that and I still do it occasionally, which leads into the content creation. But when I met in high school, I met one of my best friends, and his mom worked at a computer company. He knew all the tech people, and he taught me how to build PCs from scratch. So
Nice.
my background is really just building PCs from scratch in high school, kind of making my own. From there, I went to college for photography. I did photography, still did the PC stuff for a while. But then I moved to Alaska for a few years, and there's not a huge market for the kind of photography I did. But but because I at least had a tech building background, tech support background, even not officially, I was able to get a job out there working help desk. So my first job was working help desk at a clinic or at a hospital out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. If you have any Alaska people, I worked out in Bethel, and just saying that will
Nice.
give you some hints. But yeah, so I worked out in Bethel, Alaska for a few years, and I moved into Anchorage and stayed with the health side, clinic work, kind of just doing. I moved up to like a tier 2 sort of position, so just an advanced support. And then from there, when we moved to Washington, where I am now, I started. I kept doing the IT stuff, but we moved, and I finally had a house and a garage, and so my content creation started with woodworking. So that was
Cool.
my break in the day from doing IT stuff. Is let's put the computers down, let's go in the garage and like build something. So I just started doing woodworking, and that led into woodworking content creation. And I'd probably say about 2 years ago, I there was like a trend going on TikTok or something like that about I do this, I do that, and so I saw it a few times and I was like, man, I could do that about IT work. Like there's so many like quirky things, random things like, did you turn it on and back off? Is that a printer
Yeah.
jam or did you forget to load the paper? Like all those little random things you deal with in a ticket, like I can do that once or twice. And so just on a whim, I did it, and and I posted it on my woodworking page, and it blew up. Like, I did not expect that. I knew there's a weird mix of like woodworkers who are also IT people, and so I
Oh, nice.
captured all of them. But then they shared it out, and I just captured all these other kind of IT people who, like I said earlier, it's like they felt seen because it was like, oh man, I had somebody call and do that today. Like, turning off the monitor when I said restart your computer. Like, how does this
Yeah.
happen? Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
just all these little random quirky things people do within a day. And I found a whole new audience dedicated in that world. And so I created a secondary page, my Advanced Stray Tech page, where I kind of cater to that audience because those are my people. My wife doesn't understand all the tech stuff I may talk about. She appreciates the woodworking when she wants something built, but so now I can kind of back and forth cater to both audiences and give everybody a little bit of something. I'm trying to work a way to like mix my woodworking and my IT stuff, and it'll come at someday. But I like I like having that break of being able to just create content for both audiences, and just it caters to those two sides of me, and kind of giving back to the community in a little way, in the form of jokes.
I saw your tech side, and I didn't realize you're doing woodworking. I saw a video, and you're doing lighting and in your office
Mhm.
and whatnot, and I was like, "That's awesome." I never, I'm not a woodworker myself. It's such a niche, and it works great because it's you when I saw you do that, Kimani, I it's just a reminder for me, kind of step back and do. There's other stuff that we love to do too, and how do we combine those together and mesh somehow? I was looking at your woodwork stuff, and it looked cool. I think it's really good content, and like I said, when I saw your IT stuff, yeah, I totally relate to it for sure. You started building computers before you went to Alaska, got your help desk job. When you came back, is that where you learned woodwork, or was that before moving back to the
When I
states?
came back, so I kind of always tinkered. My dad was a contractor and a
Oh,
handyman, so making something out of nothing was kind of I'd been brought up that way. So when we moved to Washington, we were house had a house, but we were house poor. So it was like, oh well, we need a nightstand, we need this, we need that, and so I just kind of took the rough knowledge I had from him and using basic tools to just kind of build a few things around the house, a nightstand here, a table here, just until we kind of got, settled in. I refinished some furniture and just some odds and ends. And so that kind of spawned of like I was doing so much of that it was creating, content. And I was like, oh, I created a separate page just for that stuff. I was like, let me put, I felt I had a garage. I'm going to be doing a lot of this. Let me just dedicate stuff over here. And that just kind of became its own world, a part of, my day to day.
Kamani, how do your video skits and setup showcases come together? Can you walk us through your creative process for like content creation and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it just kinda it varies. So, I mean, I consume a lot of content. So I kinda see what's maybe like a trending theme out there, in terms of like, what's that trending song that every time you like scroll through, everybody's using the same
Oh
song? What's
man,
the
yeah,
it's good for a minute, then it gets annoying. So,
yeah.
like what's good, but it's not too annoying yet? What has any sort of overlay and crossover that I could potentially, adapt to my niche, whether it's IT or whether it's woodworking. So I consume a lot of
Mm,
content, and I just kind of it happens randomly. Sometimes I'm in the shop, sometimes I'm just, like, scrolling through and I see something kinda handy. I try to, whatever there's inspiration from other creators who are,
mm,
just doing stuff unique or whatever, I just try to get inspiration from those, and then I just try to think about, like, how does that fit and how can I communicate that in my own voice? Like, I don't wanna just copy what somebody else is doing because it got, 1,000,000 views. I wanna be able
mm.
to do something that speaks to me and I don't feel like out of place doing. Like, I'm not going to go out and dance and do a backflip because,
Yeah.
that's not my thing.
Uh-huh.
But if I can go, make a slightly inappropriate joke about like, woodworking or tech or whatever the case is, and it fits,
Uh-huh.
it fits who I am, then I was like, yeah, I can do that and feel comfortable. Because one thing I know people know is that if it looks like you're forcing it to be something, like they don't it doesn't attract the audience that you want. So as long as I try to keep things as original to who I am as a person. So, the guy, I tell this to anybody I meet, like the guy you saw on the internet, like making the joke or doing the thing is pretty much the exact same guy you're going to get if talk to me online or meet me in person or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like I try to put as much as my authentic self as I can into the work I put out. But yeah,
Mm.
it's just I'll have an idea or I'll gonna be putting around. I try to keep my phone handy on me, so I kinda one thing I know is I've had a bunch of ideas and I've forgotten them, so I've tried to get better about
Yeah.
putting them into my notes, and now I have a little digital note taker now, so I'm kinda like,
Nice.
"All right, idea, such and such about project management and printers." Just jot those
Uh-huh.
notes down, and then when I can look at it later, I was like, that doesn't seem as funny as I thought it was, but this'll be funny. This is how I can twist it and make it my own."
Those folks that trying to either transition into IT or cybersecurity, information security, or even students trying to get into the field, what kind of advice would you give them as far as like having a LinkedIn account or maybe like a social media account? If you're building out a virtual lab, put where you're doing, let folks know what you're doing. But what kind of advice would you give, Kimani?
So, and that's one thing I was gonna make actual some content on later on because that's one of the things I get a lot of questions about. So,
Mm,
uh, one, tap into your network of people. Um, with the shifting landscape of IT the way it is today,
mm,
having someone, even if they're not in IT, if they're in the building, and they like the place that they work at, connect with them and just say, hey, is there if opening comes up that's in the IT space or something like that in your job, just, let me know because in my experience, that referral of somebody already in the building saying, oh, hey, I know a guy for that position every time or almost every time kind of helps you get ahead of the line because they're like, oh, employee referral. Let me look at that first
mm,
before the 100 plus LinkedIn applications.
mm,
Also, don't just get your resume, keep your resume up to date. Don't just leave it on LinkedIn. There's like multiple other sites. There's ZipRecruiter. There's
mm,
Glassdoor. There's a bunch of other sites out there, and just kind of keep those options out there and be open to different positions. I mean, you may want to be, start off in network administration or cybersecurity or something like that.
mm,
And you look at the jobs and they're like, hey, you got to have like, 6 or 7 years of experience or things like that. I'd say don't look out or don't look down on, taking a potential like, help desk position or a tech 2 position or something like that, that is maybe adjacent because the most important thing in this day is getting your foot in the door, and then
True.
building that trust to be able to move up. And that's what happened for me. I didn't go to school for IT. I went and got like my A+ certification when I got in, and started working, just so I was, I could show them that, yeah, I can walk the talk, walk the walk, stuff like that. But yeah, you got to go in and, take what's out there that seems like it has that potential, because job experience, regardless of where it is, always leads to the next spot. So those would be my things, like trust your network, rely on your network, make sure your people know that you're out there looking, and then, kind of be open to taking some adjacent positions to kind of get yourself in the door, and then grow that community from within.
Man, that's so true. We were just talking about this, and it just reminded me, like 20 years ago, I don't even think there was LinkedIn back then, but like I remember, trying to get into IT, and I'm going to like organization physically with my resume, and dressed and pressed and whatnot. And it's such a, looking that, even just 25 years ago in 2000, late 90s, it's shifted so much.
Mhm.
Now we have so much resources out there. We could just, network, like a network with you, Kamani.
Yeah.
On Instagram and stuff like that. And it's the connectivity of the world is just so different now. And just for myself, with those listening that remember, the late 90s, early 2000s, the world was so different back then, and IT was different back then. And you mentioned about IT landscape just changing. It's evolving every day.
The path I took to get into IT, you know, 12 years ago is a lot harder to try to re-navigate now. Like I said, my in to IT when I was in Alaska was I interviewed it was a hospital, so I interviewed in the dental clinic, because I was just, I was willing to take anything that I was qualified for. And I talked to the manager, and she was like, I feel you could do the job, but you'd be bored here. Do you know anything about computers? And I was like, yeah, I actually do know. And I applied, but because I hadn't had the previous work experience, I didn't get in. She's like, well, I know the manager. Let me talk to him. And that was my in.
Nice.
Like, my connection with a completely different department, just being able to talk and just have a good conversation. They were like, you look like, you sound like you know what your stuff is. We would love to have you, but we think your assets would be better used in a different department. And I went and talked with the hiring manager, and that's how, I got in, because he was into photography too. And so we kind of hit it off on our extracurricular side. And then, we talked about, the actual work. And I was like, hey, I build computers from scratch. I've done this, I've done that. I know how to fix them. He's like, all right, well, starting off level 1, that's good. And when I got in, they were like, oh, I absorb information quickly. I reprocess it, and I was able to do that. So like I said, like, those awkward adjacent positions, you know, 12 years ago, they may still exist. It's just, you got to be open to going like, well, I know I want to do this, but maybe if I do this, just get myself in the door.
Yeah, and that's the ticket, is getting yourself in the door. And like, kind of similar to you, Kamani, I never went to school for IT or anything like that. And you're right, just talking to the people and being hungry to get in there. That's like getting hungry and learning from those folks. Your first IT job. It's such an important thing, and that's a really good tip for those trying to get into the field for sure. Your experience as an IT project manager. Can you explain kind of that side of IT as far as project management stuff? What it entails and whatnot.
Yeah, so with the project management I was doing, it was really focused on new store development. So I worked for a retail company, and we were expanding our retail and restaurant chains. And so my task was basically, they would basically come up and say, "Hey, we want to open a new store in Florida." And so I would work with the construction team and the retail operations team to basically, they would give me the contractor would give me the floor plans. I would make sure that the low voltage and the power and everything I needed for all their systems to run were in the right place. Working with, so it was a collaborative effort, but like, 3 or 4 different teams to be able to say like, hey, I want 4 registers here. I need 2 computers back here. I need a laptop. I'm mapping out Wi-Fi schematics throughout the whole building. And then kind of laying those out, translating them, marking up the floor plans, sending them back to the contractor, and then yelling at them later when they did nothing, didn't do the stuff I asked them to. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of ordering. I mean, I feel like my project management was a little non-traditional to some of the other project management that I've interviewed for or come across. But yeah, it's a lot of like ordering the equipment, order the equipment, know where everything goes, being able to communicate that to what they call the stakeholders. So everybody who's involved in the project and says like, well, why do we have this many outlets over here? It's like, because you want this number of computers. And if you want to, and thinking, you have to be forward thinking to say like,
Mm.
I added extra ports because if you want to grow, if this site is really successful and you want to add another register, add another computer, I gave you those spares. If you want to add, and so you have to be slightly forward thinking to
Mm.
future proof it for them, that they're looking at what's now, they're looking at what they're doing now. And I try to forward think to say like, you're going to need some leeway in there, or worst case scenario, that outlet burns out. Now you have a backup. Now you have it. You're not calling contractors. It's already there. When they run those lines, if they run them all at the same time, it's not going to cost you any more compared to if you have to call them back a year
Mm.
later to come fix it. So, a lot of forward thinking, a lot of project planning, a lot of scheduling, a lot of tickets. It's so many
Yeah.
tickets, because I'm a very hands-on person, but with project management, it's being able to direct multiple teams with the information and kind of pass that on to them. So it was a mix of me, because I was the hands-on person. Before I did project management, I was building all the hardware together, sending it to the store. Now I'm the
Nice.
person telling somebody else to put it together and send it out. So yeah, project management is I mean, if you're a highly organized person, if you're a
Mm.
very detail oriented person, and you know how to relay information, project management is a very good position to be in, especially in the IT realm, because there's so many different
Mm.
levels of project management. Like just saying, "Hey, I'm a project manager." There's so like even within our department, there were so many different levels of like, you micromanage, or you manage these little hubs of projects and things. And so yeah, I did everything from store openings to closures to
Nice.
relocation. So if it dealt with the store, usually somebody called me first and just said, "Hey, we're planning on do this." And I was like, "Did you unplug everything first?" Well, a lot of a lot of fixing after the fact, and then a lot of
Uh,
trying to prevent it from happening again in the future.
I think that's something that a lot of folks don't think about when they want to get into IT. Like, of course, they think about the help desk, the support desk, computer technician, network technician, and stuff like that. But yeah, project management. Like, I was in the current company I work for right now. I was in project management for about a year and a half ish or so, under the
Mhm.
project manager. So I was the hands-on guy and whatnot. And it's you're right. It's a lot of forward thinking, and it's pre-planning, and we're kind of like in the proactive side, if you will, rather than the help desk. I mean, the firefighters and whatnot. And
Right.
I think it gives you good all around perspective of like being on the side where it's like, hey, we're gonna lay everything down, we're gonna set everything up how things should be, how they're supposed to be working at least, and set everything up. And then I think that's a really good for those who want to get into IT field, to think about project management, or even the project, a project technician. I was, there's project technicians that just do migration stuff, depending on the organization and
Mhm.
what's how they want to give that particular position and stuff. So I think that's a really good I think that's a really good space in IT kind of look at, for those looking to get into IT. Because when I get into IT, I'd never thought about project management or anything like that
Yeah,
at all.
and it wasn't on my radar. I was when I moved to my last company, I was a tier 2, and part of our task was we called a store in a box. So we get all the hardware, build it, configure it, set it up, and then we box it back up, ship it to the store wherever it is in the country, and then that way the remote technicians or the third party vendor we're working with is able to just plug and play. And so that was the whole thing. So I basically like, once I got started and figured out the company, like I basically ran that operation for probably like 2 years, to the
Nice.
point where when the project manager was out sick, they were like, can you, she's going to be out for a little bit. Can you run this? I was like, I guess so. Cause outside of talking to all the players on the other side, I've done all the work. So I can talk
Nice.
technician to technician and say, "Hey, just as long as you can do this and we can see it on the network here, you're good. And so that's kind of what led into when she finally, when she moved on to another position, they gave me the call. Be like, so you've
Nice.
already been doing this. Like, you want to move over here? I was like, do I got to drive into the office? They were like, probably not. I was like, okay.
Nice.
Uh, but
Nice.
that eventually changed. But yeah, like it was not the path that I was originally thought I would be on. I was thinking like, oh, I'll be a supervisor, I'll be a manager. Like I like working with the help desk. Like I like my team. But
Mhm.
then project management just kind of showed up. I was like, I like the hands-on and the multi-angled way of dealing with these projects. So it's not just the hardware. It's like, where does it go? How does it get there? How does it function? Who do I need to talk to make stuff happen? And so as my wife calls it, I'm a very personable person and people like to talk to me. So
Uh,
was able to talk to the networking team, talk to the construction team, and talk to all these people and build these bridges that made
mm,
knocking these projects out so much easier. And so, and I feel that's an area that sometimes in IT, not everybody does. Like they work real good with other IT people, but it's building
mm,
those bridges to like a couple of other departments that like lead you to like that next path that you didn't think about. Like I
it's
wasn't thinking
true.
about project management, but I talked to the right people, and when the opportunity opened up, I was the first call. So like there's so many different lanes if you talk to the right people and just kind of make those connections within the field.
For those of us that work in the field, and particularly the ones that work on prem on, in on site and whatnot, like sometimes like there's this disconnect between the IT department, maybe it's there, you have an engineering department, maybe there's a developer department. There's always some kind of, because we're not perfect, we're all humans, but there's sometimes it's disconnect. And I think someone like you, Kamani, as a project manager, you're able to be on the proactive side, but then kind of make sure there's that bridge, like you mentioned, between the
Mhm.
IT department developers, between the developers, IT department, and the engineering department, and we're just a moving body of parts, but like you guys are the ones that make sure, hey, is that glue is still there, and that relationship is still there, and that communication is flowing and whatnot. And man, hats off to you, because that's really much needed, and that way everybody's on the same page.
Mhm.
Everybody knows exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We're having fun together doing it. We're enjoying each other's. There's a sense of camaraderie.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I've been at organizations where that camaraderie, because of past things, it just doesn't, it's not there. And even if we try to repair
Mhm.
it, it's just not there. And someone like you, Kamani, that loves project management, that's a bridge that has to be fixed right there for sure, or built.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I've worked with project managers who don't have any IT experience. Like,
Mm,
they've been project manager of other projects, and people, with that title, they're like, "Oh, you're a project manager? Well, here's a project, here you go." But they don't understand the IT aspect. So I
yeah.
feel that me having worked at the help desk, been a supervisor, that because I know the actual
Mm,
functions of the team and how the team is able to actually operate, that was a huge asset for me
mm,
being able to realistic expectations for everybody else. Like,
mm,
like, hey, well, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, the service desk only has like 4 people, and you
yeah.
need 3 of them to do this. Like, well, what if we do that? Like, how can we work this out? Like, do you need this on opening day, or can
Mm,
we like get this later on? It's like, oh well, later on works. And it was like perfect. Like if you can give me that, or oh well, what about the Wi-Fi? Like the Wi-Fi is good. We got the Wi-Fi. Like we have
mm,
it in all the zones where it's needed. But I was able to like people like, oh well, so and so added 4 more devices. They're like, who did what? Like they would we would have these flyby conversations, and I would be able to get ahead of so many problems,
nice.
um, that would stop, not necessarily stop a store closure, but it would work its way up the chain to a director. Somebody was like, "Well,
Mhm,
why wasn't this perfect when we opened?" I was like, "Well, because person over here ordered 6 things and didn't tell anybody, and now I
mm,
have to find outlets, and now I have to find Wi-Fi, to handle all this extra traffic." So yeah, those bridges with those other groups really
mm,
probably saved the company a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of
nice.
headaches. And those are the things that I try to throw into my skits, because some of
Yeah.
those people, those are the things that don't get noticed. They're funny, they're funny after the fact, but those are the things that don't get noticed. And
Yeah.
people, I'm trying to do a few more things where you kind of show like, people are slightly underappreciated for all the stuff they do in the
Yeah.
background to keep things functioning. Like, they're like, oh yeah, some people are like, yeah, IT's working real hard on it, but when stuff is bad, it's all IT's fault. When stuff
Yeah.
is good,
Yeah.
like nobody says anything. So
That's
I try to
true.
make
That's true.
yeah, I try to make sure my IT people, whatever department you're in, know that like we know, like we're there, we see it. And just because I went to project management, I didn't turn my back on
Yeah.
my people and just start like throwing down decrees. I was like, hey, I'm trying to make this work with your schedule. Like, can you get this to me on Thursday? It was like, and get
Mm.
you Friday morning. It's like, I'll take it. Like, let's work together because we're all in this boat together. And one
Yeah.
day I'm gonna need you, and I don't want you to be like, oh, you just project managers,
Yeah.
you just throw stuff at us and expect it to happen. I was like, no,
Uh-huh.
no, you're my people. I try to take care of my people
Yeah.
as best I can. I make sure, like in meetings, I call you
Mm.
out and be like, appreciate you for
Mm.
boxing that stuff up or sending that stuff. Like I try to give as many shout outs to the people as I can because I've been on the other side. I know,
Yeah.
corporate's like, hey, we had a record year. Thank you to marketing and accounts management and the retail team. And then like you just waiting is like IT, also
Yeah.
IT, nothing. So I try to make sure my
Yeah.
people know that like I see you. We kept this going when everyone else was freaking out.
Oh man, no, that's much needed, Kamani. Like you reminded me of so many things in the past position I had in IT, and one thing I really like about being hands on, whether it's all hands on deck, even the network engineer has to help out set up computers, whatever it may be. We got 50 Dells. They came in the truck, like,
Mm,
hey, we need you guys to help you get the dollies. Make sure you separate departments, and like what I love about that, and for those listening that aren't in the field yet, one of the things I love about IT is that, and you mentioned it doesn't get noticed a lot, is the teamwork.
mhm,
Enjoying, not only enjoying what you do, you love IT, love computers, love technology, but enjoying the man or the woman next to you, like camaraderie, as coworkers. And it's such a beautiful. Like I'm just remembering on top of my head right now, like I worked in Texas at a TV network, and we're a very small IT department, but man, we worked the heck out of everybody. I mean, we worked ourselves really good, but like we enjoyed it though. It was work, but it is enjoyable work. But that's because
mhm,
of the people around you, and that's such a that you just remind me of that, Kamani, to for those listening right now in the field that enjoy, once you get in the field, enjoy the people that you work with, learn from
mhm.
them, they'll learn from you too, and it's such a beautiful thing though. But yeah, sometimes they don't give shouts to IT. I've been there in organizations where like, yeah, engineering department was awesome. They were able to build this, developers were able to build this app, and well,
Mhm.
who does all the infrastructure for those connections for that particular
Right.
application?
Right.
That's one thing. We do want to get, we do want to get some flowers, and for those that work, those of us who work hard in IT. But man, they don't realize how much camaraderie there is in those teams that
Mhm.
work well. Man, I there's nothing like it. Like it's kind of like that. I'm a basketball head, but it's just like that perfect basketball team where it's like, all
Right.
five
It's
the
the
guys
dream
in the court,
team.
a dream team, and you don't want to leave that team. So, later on you move on and you do other stuff, but like those guys I work with, even for myself, I know also for you, Kamani, like I still keep in contact with those people. Like, hey man,
Mhm.
how's it going? How's work going? They might be in another company too, but that camaraderie and that networking, like we mentioned before, that network that you build, the day might come like, hey man, I'm looking for a job, or like, hey, I need a reference, or hey,
Mhm.
can you help me? I got a guy that needs help with networking stuff, and I need another guy. Maybe we could, get this contract or something. It could be anything, right? And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing in IT that not a lot of people see, because like you mentioned, sometimes we get talked that if hey, my email's not working. What the heck? Well,
Right.
turn your app on, um, and we do, all this laugh, and we do want to take care of our organization users, but we also want to laugh. And I think
Mhm.
you're such a great example, Kamani, when I saw your content, even your word working stuff, like step back a little bit, take a breather and laugh a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
and it's such a great reminder for us in the field and whatnot, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's serious in the moment, but ultimately it's
Yeah.
not like it's not, I don't try to take anything like too seriously. And that's
Yeah.
why like, after a hard tech day, just coming home being able to like, blow off some steam, go make
Yeah.
something in the shop, have that little disconnect or
Oh yeah.
whatever. And then I'm able to like laugh about it or process it or whatever the case is. Like
Uh-huh.
that's like my shop therapy, and
For
vice
sure.
versa. It's like go build up something or take a photo. Just having that extra outlet, and so the Instagram stuff is like my extra outlet of if I'm not in the
Nice.
shop woodworking, like was it that funny at work, like, or can I make this funny, like how many other I know someone else is dealing with this and somebody will catch it, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and that's I was just like that's it's life, and it's
It
not
is.
just in woodworking, it's not just in tech, it's in so many different areas of
That's
life
true.
that people go like there's a thing. I mean, I feel there's probably like nurses out there who are probably able to, I've seen nurses out there who've
Uh-huh.
been doing the same thing, like, coming
Nice.
home after working like, 14-hour shift and, just mainlining coffee and going to bed and waking up again. Like, just
Yeah.
those, those things like, but other nurses would be like, yep, that's me. That's me. like, why don't drink some water? Like, you've been drinking coffee and Red Bulls all day. Like,
Yeah.
drink some water. And you're like, no, I'm good.
We tend to forget that human element of things. Even IT, like you mentioned, Kimani, IT, no matter what industry you're in, particularly, in IT, information security, cybersecurity, we're all in the same team, no matter what. I like you
Mhm.
mentioned, Kimani, whether you're project manager or you're the help desk person or you're the network guy or whatever it is, InfoSec team, we're on the same boat, if you will. And when everybody's on the same page, man, it's definitely a beautiful thing for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
For those that want to kind of reach out to you or maybe look at your content, where can they find your content?
So I think I've got most of the bases covered. So I'm on Instagram at Van Stray Designs for all like my woodworking and various kind of projects and stuff, and just good time reels. Then Van Stray Tech, that one kind of mainly focuses on tech, gaming, a couple other things out there. Then also I'm also on YouTube at Van Stray and Van Stray Tech for more of my bigger projects. So I'm working on a room design for my computer and a computer build
Nice.
coming up soon. So those will be coming out. And then I'm also on the flip side building a bed for my daughter. So like
Oh,
if you do a
awesome.
little woodworking, do a little tech, I think I kind of got all the bases covered. But yeah, and I'm trying to grow on TikTok. We'll see how it goes. But I'm on TikTok at Van Stray as well. So
I recommend check Kimani stuff out, guys. Like for those that's a field or even those trying to get into the fields, because it's my favorite. Before we go, one of my favorite skits that you made so far that I've seen, and man, it's so relatable. Is when you get that phone call, "Hey, Mike, Kimani, the printer's not working," or it's not printing for some reason. You get there, you press and it starts it starts printing as soon as you show up, and it's such, man, how many times in the field that those that can relate to that has happened to us, like millions of times. Like, oh man,
yeah, it's because I was like, oh man, when we talked about that skit, I was like, yeah, that's like we've been there, and I've seen it in my
yeah,
comments, like other people. I was like, and that's I take the feedback and stuff from my comments. And I was like, and I've told
uh,
people, I was like, ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna put that into
yeah,
the next video because I know if it happened to you and it happened to me, it happened to other people, and so I try to make it
oh
as
yeah,
relatable as possible and have a good time with it because, like I said, and like you said, like everybody when you're in the thick of it, you need a little laugh, you need that little break in the
that's true.
day or whatever, like, oh, you know what, this is good, I know I'm not alone in this, and obviously you make it out to the other side.
Kamani, thanks for being on the podcast, man. It was such an awesome time and such a beautiful thing where you're doing as far as like the content you're doing, project management stuff you do, and I appreciate that, man.
So no, I appreciate you reaching out and having me on, and doing what you're doing to communicate with the next generation of IT and cybersecurity and just tech people in general, and just keep them engaged and kind of giving them that avenue, because it's like I said, it's information like the stuff you give that kind of helps people navigate those waters, and so it's a great service. So appreciate that.
Oh, appreciate those words, Kamani. This was episode number 20. Kimani Van Strayhorn, seasoned IT pro, IT project manager, digital content creator. Thanks, Kimani.
Thank you. Have a good one.